3 wins, 0 losses in Strasbourg across her last 2 visits, and a 100th WTA victory sealed on her 25th birthday. If you think Emma Navarro's run in Strasbourg this week is a coincidence, you haven't been watching closely enough. Let me put the scoreline in front of you first. 6-4, 4-6, 6-1 against Iva Jovic, the number 3 seed, world number 17, Hobart finalist, and one of the most physically imposing baseliners on the WTA clay circuit right now. On paper, that result shouldn't happen. Navarro came into this tournament ranked 39th in the world, winless at the main level since mid-February, carrying the quiet, suffocating weight of a full season that had gone absolutely nowhere. And then she walks onto the red clay in Strasbourg, a city she knows like a second home, and dismantles a top 20 player in 3 sets. I don't think casual fans understand what just happened here. I was looking at the tape, and the number that jumped out at me immediately was the third set. 5 games in a row to open that final set. 5. Against Jovic, a player who doesn't just hand you momentum. She wrestles it, she digs. She's built like a pressure machine on slow clay, and she had just won the second set 6-4, meaning she had all the psychological leverage in the world going into that deciding set. And Navarro took her apart anyway. That's not a lucky run of points. That's a tactical shift executed with composure. That's someone who knows exactly what she's doing. Now here's the bit that actually bothers me. And it bothers me because it exposes how quickly we write players off. Navarro was being quietly archived by the tennis internet. You know the narrative: 2024 US Open semifinalist promising clay results but can't sustain it. People were already drafting the what went wrong pieces. But here's what those takes missed entirely. Navarro has never truly struggled at Strasbourg. She was a quarterfinalist here in 2023, quarterfinalist again in 2025. Even her so-called bad year in 2024 here ended in the round of 16, which for a player supposedly in freefall is not the catastrophe anyone made it out to be. This tournament fits her game like a glove. The conditions suit her slice, her movement, her ability to redirect pace rather than generate it outright. She doesn't need to overpower you here. She just needs to outthink you. And against Jovic, the outthinking was clinical. Watch the first set, specifically the way Navarro handled the high bouncing kick serve that Jovic was using to push her deep and wide off the backhand. Most players at 39 in the world either block it short and get punished, or they overswing trying to rip through the ball and dump it in the net. Navarro did neither. She absorbed it, kept her contact point deliberately late, and redirected cross court with a flat, low trajectory that forced Jovic to completely reset her positioning. She did this repeatedly on the big points. The break that sealed the first set came off exactly that pattern. A high kick serve to the backhand, Navarro redirected, Jovic ran it down but was a full meter behind the baseline, and the next ball went straight into the open court. Technical, deliberate, invisible to anyone who isn't watching the geometry. The second set, I'll be direct, Navarro lost the plot. Her first serve percentage dropped, her inside out forehand, which had been a genuine weapon in the first set, stopped landing, and she gave Jovic exactly the kind of slow, neutral rallies that the serve thrives on. Unforced errors climbed. Jovic started taking time away by stepping inside the baseline on the second serve, and Navarro had no response. She was tentative. There's no softer way to say it. She stopped being aggressive and started surviving, and against Jovic on clay, surviving is not enough. The scoreline, 4-6, was honest. But here's where this gets genuinely interesting, because what Navarro did at the start of the third set is an indictment of every lazy narrative about her mental game. She didn't tighten up. She didn't play not to lose. She went after Jovic immediately and with zero hesitation. The first game of the third set featured 3 of the cleanest inside-out forehands she'd hit all match, deep with heavy topspin, pinning Jovic to the corner and taking her cross-court option completely out of the equation. She broke early, served well, moved beautifully, and suddenly it was 5-0. The match was over before Jovic even recalibrated. That kind of response, losing a set badly and then coming out in the decider playing better than you did in the first, that's not a fluke. That's a player who has found something. I'll tell you what I think she's found. Strasbourg, specifically the way this tournament makes her feel. She said it herself after the match, Adam, and I don't usually quote player interviews because they're full of polished PR, but what she said was revealing. I come and play here every year. I get to celebrate my birthday here every year. It's just a special place for me. Now strip the sentimentality out of that, and what you're left with is a player who has built genuine positive associations with a specific competitive environment. That matters more than people realize. Court confidence is real. Surface memory is real. Knowing that you've won here before, that you've performed here before, that your game travels well to this particular clay, that's not soft sports psychology. That's competitive infrastructure. The 100 WTA win adds another layer to this. Milestone victories are psychologically tricky. Players often tighten around them, play conservatively, make the milestone the goal rather than the match. Navarro didn't. She never seemed like someone trying to protect a number. She played with aggression right through the match, and the 100th win came as a byproduct of doing the right things tactically, not as something she hunted. That's maturity. That's the kind of composure that former world number 8 players carry even when their ranking temporarily drops. If you're a purist, you're going to love this next part. Navarro's game is built for clay in a way that modern WTA tennis doesn't always celebrate. She's not a power baseline grinder. She's not going to out top spin you into oblivion like the top 5 players can. What she does is construct points with intelligence, vary pace deliberately, use the slice backhand as both a defensive reset and an offensive setup tool, and exploit open court space through angle rather than pace. On hard courts, when opponents can take time away with their power, that style gets neutralized. On clay, where the ball sits up, where rallies are longer, where redirection becomes an art form, Navarro gets to operate at her best. The slow red dirt in Strasbourg amplifies every one of her strengths and gives her time to mask her vulnerabilities. I was looking at the tape, and one thing nobody is talking about is her court coverage in that third set. Her baseline positioning shifted slightly earlier in each rally. She was reading Jovic's shot patterns from the previous 20 minutes of the match and pre-positioning based on that intelligence. That's not instinct. That's a player who had been logging data while she was apparently losing the second set, processing it, and then deploying it the moment the third set began. Tennis analysts who focus only on shot quality miss this entirely. Now, here's the bit that actually bothers me about how Navarro's season is being discussed. The media narrative is all about the slump, all about the return to form, all about the emotional birthday milestone. Nobody's asking the harder question, which is what does a WTA quarterfinal in Strasbourg on clay 2 weeks before Roland Garros actually tell us about her chances at the slam? And my answer, uncomfortable as it might be for people who've written her off, is a lot. Navarro reached the US Open semifinal in 2024. She has a game that travels, she has clay experience, she has the big match composure, and she is now playing with momentum and confidence coming into the most significant clay event on the calendar. The quarterfinal is not the ceiling here. If she continues executing the way she did in that third set against Jovic, aggressive on serve returns, disciplined on the high kicking second balls, and ruthless with the inside out forehand when the court opens up, she is a genuine problem for anyone in her Roland Garros draw. I'm not predicting a slam runoff one tournament result, but I am saying that the version of Emma Navarro we saw in the third set against Iva Jovic in Strasbourg, the one who won 5 straight games against a top 20 player with absolute authority, is a version capable of beating anybody outside the top 5 on a clay court. And in a Grand Slam draw, outside the top 5 is 80% of the bracket. The next 3 months will tell the full story. Roland Garros first, the draw matters enormously, and if she avoids the top 3 seeds until the second week, she is a quarter finalist minimum. Grass season after that is less predictable. Her game doesn't translate to Wimbledon as naturally, though her US Open run proved she's a serious hardcourt performer. The North American summer hardcourt swing is where you'll see whether this Strasbourg moment was the genuine turning point or just a temporary uptick tied to a familiar environment. But here's where I land on Emma Navarro today, on her 25th birthday, holding her 100th WTA victory. She is not a player finding her footing. She is a player who temporarily lost a surface, found it again, and is now coming into Roland Garros with more psychological momentum than almost anyone in her ranking range. The rest of the draw had better be paying attention because the version of Navarro that dominated that third set is not going to quietly disappear in the first week of a major. Not anymore.